Thank you, Bruce. That was lovely. Good morning and welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Society in Stuart, Florida. Today is November 22nd, 2020. My name is Judy Clough and I'll be your worship associate today. We are happy to have our minister, Bob MacDonald, in the pulpit this morning. A big thanks to those who helped with the service. Bruce Ruby, our music director, Corina Pelloni, our wonderful Zoom host, and Janet Grote, who is both our backup Zoom host and our backup worship associate. We will mute everyone, actually you're already muted, to avoid any noise in the background. Please remain muted. We're a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identity, race, age, and background. Thank you for being with us today. We're holding Zoom services every Sunday at 11, and you are welcome. If you would like to see the announcement, it is in our Friday online newsletter. If you want to get on that email list, if you're not on it, or find out more information from us or about us, go to our website at www.tcuuc.org. In that newsletter, there will be a link you can use to join the following Sunday service. While you're there, check the link for the giving, or you can mail a check to TCUUC, 21 Southeast Central Parkway, Stuart, Florida, 34997. Thank you. I've been happy to join Zoom services occasionally over the summer from upstate New York, and now I'm even happier to be back in Stuart for the winter. Zoom has been a blessing for me. Now Bob will light the chalice. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Albert Schweitzer. Our opening words are adapted from an Iroquois prayer. The Iroquois are a confederacy of Native Americans in upstate New York. We return thanks to our mother, the earth, which sustains us. We return thanks to the rivers and streams, which supply us with water. We return thanks to all herbs, which furnish medicines for the cure of our diseases. We return thanks to the corn and to her sisters, the beans and squashes, which give us life. We return thanks to the wind, which, moving the air, has banished diseases. We return thanks to the moon and stars, which have given to us their light when the sun was gone. We return thanks to the sun, that he has looked upon the earth with a beneficent eye. We return thanks to the Great Spirit, in whom is embodied all goodness, and who directs all things for the good of his children. Now Bruce will play and sing hymn number 349, We Gather Together. Zoom is out of sync for music, so please sing thankfully as you are muted.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find them in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in our journey, confirming provision, our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care in hope that we are free.
We will say the first part of our affirmation, and Bruce will sing and play the second part. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
From all that will be the stars, songs of faith in your eyes. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung from every land, by every tongue.
Corina Pelloni will now share a time for all ages.
Hi, everybody. Am I unmuted? Okay, great. So for this morning's time for all ages, I have a video to share with you. First off, I'll preface it. This video is Chief Phil Lane Jr., who is singing a prayer of gratitude So Chief Phil Lane Jr. is an internationally recognized leader in human and community development. He's a hereditary chief and a member of the Yankton, Dakota, and Chickasaw First Nations. He's a citizen of the United States and Canada who has worked with Indigenous people all over the world. With elders from tribes across North America, he founded the Four Worlds International Institute, which is a family of people and organizations that are bound by common principles from North American indigenous cultures to support building a healthy and sustainable future for the human family. So he was an interesting guy. When I saw his name, I looked him up, and that's kind of how I learned things. I'm like, oh, this is really good. Who is this guy? So here is a video. Give me a second to screen share this with you. So thank you for joining me for that. So White Buffalo Calf Woman is a prophet who brought teachings to the Lakota people. She taught them 7 sacred rites, including the sweat lodge, the Sundance ceremony, and the vision quest, and also 4 sacred songs, of which that was one. So because we're coming up on Thanksgiving here, it's kind of incomplete without acknowledging Northern Indigenous cultures. But in order to acknowledge those, we also are forced to acknowledge like some really dark parts of our own national history. But at the same time, it's important to experience gratitude. It's a rest for our souls to experience gratitude. And he said the words, "All is sacred," and it's almost an invitation to transcend the conflict and the darkness in our history that we are like encountering. Like, it's so polarized and so politicized too these days, but if we can transcend it, we can also kind of rest our spirit and then return to our path with renewed energy. So all is sacred. Thank you.
Thank you, Corina. Now it's time for joys and sorrows. I will move one symbolic stone in our symbolic river for everyone, since I'm not in the sanctuary where I have real stones. Please keep your joys and sorrows brief. Raise your hand to share. Corina will unmute you to speak. If your joys and sorrows were too personal or private to share, know that we will keep you in our hearts.
I guess I would like to add that we might lift up in thanksgiving and in hope and concern that our healthcare people, the nurses, the frontline people, the doctors, find the strength to see all of us through and see themselves through. This reading is from the back of our hymnal. The author is Max Coots. When love is felt or fear is known, when holidays and holy days and such times come, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when seasons come as seasons do, old and known, but sometimes new, when lives are born or people die, when something sacred sensed in soil or sky, mark the time, respond with thought or prayer or smile or grief. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind, for all of these are holy things we will not, cannot find again. Some moments of silence.
Spirit of life, come to me. Sing in my heart all the stars of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots forming close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
First, a reminder that this afternoon at 4 o'clock is our community Thanksgiving virtual from the Unity Church. Corina will put in the chat listing the links in case you didn't get my PS to the update. We're having 7 speakers, all limited to 3 minutes. My topic is gratitude in the time of loss and pandemic. So it's 4 o'clock this afternoon, in case you can join us while it's happening on Facebook or later on YouTube. And now a musical video. We try to be inclusive here of many genres. Last time, Pete Seeger joined us, and now we'll listen to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Thank you, Corina. A repressed memory haunts me every Thanksgiving. I seem to recall that early in my life, I heard some adult figure around me say, "Now, what do you say?" Whether I knew the feeling or not, I knew the answer. The time we are surviving, and 250,000 Americans have not. With air we have to breathe in fear, and a political climate distracting us with buffoonery when we need clarity and competent leadership to see us through hell. Well, for me, the sky could light up with, "Now, what do you say?" Maybe in the tail of a Titusville launch. I would still have to ponder what manner of honest response. Last week, we watched the PBS Great Performances Salute The Fiddler on the Roof. Since its debut in '64, I think, it has had a storied appeal and adaptability. Productions have delighted from Harlem to Japan and India. The context of time background is Western Russia, turn of the century, 1900 or so. The context is grim. Grim like we've never known life to be. But I thought maybe we get a taste of it now. Since gratitude and thanksgiving are, for me, rooted in the Judeo-Christian tradition, or what the great scholar Karen Armstrong and now many call the Abrahamic faiths, which connect Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, at least by sacred book and theology, whatever the tormented history of family feud. The PBS salute points out a number of things I overlooked in the enjoyment of the wonderful music. Tevye and Golda have 5 daughters. For the context 1900 or so, that's about as clear an affirmation of the joy of sexuality as was possible. Throughout, Tevye complains to the Creator. The living conditions are beyond deplorable. Of course, no response. It reminds me of Job's complaint. Remember, the book of Job is a fable about a wager between the Creator and a member of his or her cabinet named Satan. Will a person of faith keep the faith if all the comforts of life are stripped away? The story and wager has always seemed a bit strange. But today, it seems to have a certain applicability. At the end, Job confronts the Maker. I was a righteous man, so why was so much taken from me? The divine answer, who are you to complain? Where were you when I created the creation? You don't get the big picture. Who are you to question me? The end. I would answer, could you please point me to the complaint department? Which reminds me of that scene in Officer and a Gentleman when the sergeant tries to throw cocky recruit Richard Gere out. Gere can only respond in anguish. I have nowhere else to go. So Tevye has a lover's quarrel with his maker. The musical leaves us with questions galore for the maker and few consolations. There is no protection. You just have to keep going. What helps you keep going? Tradition, or so you think. That's all you get, and that's all you got. There's more than one God pain, unanswered, excruciating pain at the heart of Tevye's faith. His firstborn daughter falls for a guy who's a goy, a Russian Orthodox boy. So she leaves her faith behind, which means she's dead to her family. At the end of the great performance are a few pictures of the failed Russian Revolution of 1905. Whom would the Tsar blame? Oh, the Jews, of course. Pogroms and expulsion, anti-Semitism, like racism, is deeply rooted in utter irrationality. The Roman Church called lending at interest, usury, a sin. Jews were not allowed in the regular professions and trades, so they were allowed to lend at interest and then demonized for being good at the only profession they were allowed to practice. Thanksgiving is a national holiday, so its history is interesting. My reading takes me to Lincoln declaring the fall festivity as a way to heal a divided nation at war. October 3, 1963, by the President of the United States, a proclamation. The year that is drawing towards its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come, others have been added, which are of so extraordinary a nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and soften even the heart, which is habitually insensible to the ever watchful providence of Almighty God. In the midst of a civil war of unequaled magnitude and severity, which has sometimes seemed to foreign states to invite and to provoke their aggression, peace has been preserved with all nations. Order has been maintained. The laws have been respected and obeyed, and harmony has prevailed everywhere except in the theater of military conflict. While that theater has been greatly contracted by the advancing armies and navies of the North. Needful diversions of wealth and of strength from the fields of peaceful industry to the national defense have not arrested the plow, the shuttle, or the ship. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience, commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife in which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the imposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed by President Abraham Lincoln, William H. Seward, Secretary of State. How we need Abraham Lincoln now. Someone to embody with malice toward none and charity for all. Maybe we've got one or we're getting someone. We'll see, we can hope. Was there healing after the first worst national division and strife? Reconstruction was not about giving people of color a shot or a piece of land or even a toehold in the standard of living of the time. Black men, especially in the South, were introduced to a new and improved form of slavery in prison work gangs for the slightest offenses. I don't know if this is true of other countries, but Americans need to keep reading, keep studying history so we can figure out if what we have been taught is real or pretend. The mythical meal making between natives and pilgrims glosses over the disease the arrivals brought from Europe, which the natives and immigrants barely survived. History is written by the winners. We need to learn from those natives or their descendants the story, the truth they were told. It might include what was served up in the food section of the New York Times Wednesday, Revisiting the Thanksgiving Myth by Brett Anderson. Fort Peck Indian Reservation, Montana. On a frigid November morning inside a tractor barn in northeast Montana, 10 members of the Sioux and Assiniboine tribes joined in song to bless a .30-06 hunting rifle and to lift up the spirit of a buffalo they were preparing to kill. One man played a painted hand drum. Others passed around burning sage. The hunt that followed took place on Turtle Mound Buffalo Ranch, 27,000 acres of rolling pasture on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation. Every stage of the hunt was marked by a ceremony to give thanks for a buffalo that descends from animals killed to near extinction by white settlers in the late 19th century. The mass killing was part of a government-approved effort to seize land from Native Americans who depended on the animal to survive. The brutality of settlers' expansion into the Great Plains and American West has been drastically underplayed in popular myths about the founding and growth of the United States. Arguably, the best known of those myths is the story of the first Thanksgiving, a holiday Robert Magnan, who led the buffalo hunt at Fort Peck, does not observe. He says, Thanksgiving is kind of like Columbus Day for Native people. Why would we celebrate people who tried to destroy us? That article written by Brett Anderson, who sums up that Native American advocates have found common cause with African American advocates under the theme, dispossessed what was taken from us. A sign of hope, 110 Native Americans, including Alaskan natives, ran for office last month or this month. The message that comes from the sky or from within to me is that gratitude, the giving of thanks, is not about what you feel, but about what you know. And however grim our time seems, we know who has loved us and given to us, who has seen the good in us and wanted only the good for us, who has helped us to see this life and land as an opportunity and did what luring or pushing they had in them to encourage us to seize it. So the upcoming festivity helps me to shed more than one myth, especially instead of self-congratulation, an abiding sense of debt. The closing hymn is number 18 in our hymnal, What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul? love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul. To love and to all friends, I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends, I will sing. To love and to all friends, through pain and sorrow end, with thanks unto the end, I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
Before I extinguish the chalice, these words from the back of the hymnal attributed to Percival Chubb. From the harvest of the soil, we are given occasion to garner a harvest of the heart and mind, a harvest of resolve to be careful stewards of all life's gifts and opportunities, a harvest of reverence for the wondrous power and life at work in things that grow and in the soul, a harvest of gratitude for every good which we enjoy, and of fellowship for all who are sustained by life's beauty. You know, some things just happen. The chalice extinguished itself. Maybe I should lower it so you can tell me, Bob, the light, the light. Now, in a moment, Bruce will introduce the postlude. After that, please plan to stay for our time of chatting and coffee, if you have coffee. Thank you, Bruce.
The postlude this morning is entitled Gratitude. The words and music are by John Puccini.
So slow.